The frightened boy begged with tears in his eyes, "Please don't hurt me, I can't walk." But the poor little girl didn't hurt him. Instead, she protected him and discovered that he was the CEO's long-lost son. But what happened next will surprise you. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The rain fell like bullets on the dark Seattle streets, each drop echoing through the empty alleyways where 8-year-old Lily had learned to survive. Her golden hair, matted and tangled, clung to her face as she huddled under a torn cardboard box behind Murphy's diner, clutching the half-eaten sandwich she'd found in the dumpster. Most nights, Lily stayed invisible. That was the rule of the streets. Don't be seen, don't make trouble, don't trust anyone. But tonight, something made her look up. At first, she thought it was a wounded animal, the way the sound pierced through the rain. But as she peered around the corner, her heart nearly stopped. It was a boy, maybe 12 or 13, dragging himself across the wet pavement. His clothes were torn, his face covered in bruises, and his legs. Something was terribly wrong with his legs. "Please," his voice cracked with terror, "please don't hurt me, I can't walk." Lily should have run. Every instinct screamed at her to disappear into the shadows. On the streets you learned fast. Other people's problems became your problems, and problems got you killed. But something in his voice, the raw fear and desperation, froze her in place. "I'm not going to hurt you," she whispered, stepping into the rain. The boy's eyes widened, wild with panic. He tried to crawl backward, whimpering, "No, no, please. They'll come back. They always come back." Hey, it's okay." Lily held up her small, dirty hands. "I'm just a kid like you, see?" He stared at her, his entire body trembling, blood mixed with rainwater trailing from cuts on his arms. His eyes, those desperate, haunted eyes, looked like they'd seen things no child should ever see. "What's your name?" Lily asked softly, kneeling in a puddle beside him. He opened his mouth, then closed it as if he'd forgotten. "Max," he finally whispered. "I'm Lily. Can you tell me what happened?" Max shook his head violently. "They'll find me. They always find me. I've been." His voice broke. "So long. I just want to go home." Something inside Lily's heart cracked. She knew what it felt like to be alone, to be scared, to have nowhere to go. She'd been living on these streets for 2 years, since her foster parents kicked her out for being too much trouble. But this boy, Max, his fear was different, deeper, darker. "I know a place," she said, making a decision that would change everything. "It's not much, but it's dry and it's safe. Can you hold on to me?" Max hesitated, his eyes searching her face for any sign of danger. Then slowly he nodded. Lily wrapped his arm around her small shoulders, her legs nearly buckling under his weight. He was bigger than her, older, but so weak he could barely help himself. Every step was agony for him, his broken whimpers cutting through the rain. "Just a little further," Lily encouraged, her own arms screaming with effort. "You're doing great, Max. We're almost there." They moved through the darkness like two ghosts, leaving a trail of blood and rainwater behind them. Lily's hideout was 3 blocks away, an abandoned office building that most people avoided. She'd made a small space on the 2nd floor behind a fallen filing cabinet where she kept her treasures. A blanket she'd found, some canned food, and a stuffed bear with one missing eye. As they finally collapsed inside, both gasping for breath, Max looked at her with tears streaming down his face. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "You don't even know me." Lily pulled her one blanket over both of them, feeling his body shake with cold and fear. "Because nobody helped me when I needed it," she said simply. "And I promised myself that if I ever could help someone, I would." Max closed his eyes, his breathing slowly evening out. "Thank you," he whispered. Outside, the rain continued to fall, and somewhere in the distance, sirens began to wail, getting closer with each passing second. Morning light filtered through the cracked windows, casting shadows across Max's bruised face. Lily had stayed awake all night, watching him sleep, terrified he might stop breathing. His fever had spiked around 3 in the morning, and she'd used her precious store of bottled water to cool his burning forehead. Now, as his eyes fluttered open, she saw something she hadn't noticed in the darkness. Intelligence, awareness, and a sadness so deep it seemed to swallow everything around it. "How long have I been asleep?" Max's voice was hoarse. "About 6 hours. Lily offered him a can of soup she'd been saving. "It's cold, but it's food." Max struggled to sit up, wincing with every movement. His legs were swollen, discolored in ways that made Lily's stomach turn. When he tried to move them, his face went white with pain. "They broke them," he said flatly, as if discussing the weather. 6 months ago. Said it would stop me from running away again." He took a sip of the soup, his hands shaking. "It worked." Lily felt tears burning behind her eyes. "How long have they had you?" Max was quiet for so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. 7 years. I was 5 when they took me. 7 years. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Lily tried to imagine it, being taken at 5, spending your entire childhood locked away, hurt, broken. "Do you remember your family?" she asked gently. Something flickered across Max's face. Pain mixed with something else. Hope, maybe, or memory. "My dad," he said, his voice cracking. "He had this laugh, you know, big and loud. He used to carry me on his shoulders, and we'd pretend I was a giant. Mom made these chocolate chip cookies every Sunday, and my room had stars on the ceiling that glowed in the dark." Tears streamed down his cheeks now, and he didn't bother wiping them away. "They told me my parents didn't want me anymore, that they'd paid the ransom, but decided to keep the money instead, that I was too much trouble, too expensive to keep." He looked at Lily with eyes that had seen too much darkness. "I stopped believing them about a year ago. But by then, I couldn't remember my last name anymore. Couldn't remember our address. All I had left was my dad's face and my mom's cookies." Lily moved closer, taking his hand in hers. "What made you escape?" Max's jaw tightened. "I didn't escape. Not really. They were moving me. Said they had a new buyer, someone who wanted a kid who couldn't run." His voice turned bitter. "Apparently, I'm worth more broken. But the van crashed 2 nights ago. The driver and the guard both got hurt bad. I crawled out through the back doors while they were unconscious and just kept crawling. Didn't know where I was going. Just knew I had to get away." "Do you think they're looking for you?" Lily asked, fear creeping into her voice. Max met her eyes, and she saw the answer before he spoke. "They're always looking. They never stop. That's why." He squeezed her hand. "Lily, you need to leave. Go far away. If they find me here, they'll—" "No." Lily's voice was firm. "I'm not leaving you. We'll figure this out together." Outside, the sound of a car engine made them both freeze. It slowed down, stopped, then continued on. Max's entire body was rigid with terror, and Lily realized something horrifying. This was how he'd lived for 7 years. Every sound a potential threat, every moment filled with fear. "Tell me about your dad," she said softly, trying to calm him. "What was his name?" "What?" Max closed his eyes, searching through memories that had grown foggy with time and trauma. "Alexander," he finally said. "Alexander Sterling. He ran a big company, something with technology. He was always on his phone, but when he was with me, nothing else mattered." A small smile touched his lips. "He called me his little prince." Lily's heart ached. Somewhere out there, Alexander Sterling, if he was still alive, had spent 7 years not knowing his son was suffering. 7 years of wondering, hoping, grieving. "We're going to find him," Lily said with determination she didn't quite feel. "I promise you, Max, we're going to get you home." But even as she spoke the words, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. Alexander Sterling stood in his penthouse office overlooking Seattle's skyline, holding a photograph he'd looked at 10,000 times. In it, a 5-year-old boy with dark curly hair and his mother's green eyes laughed at the camera, covered in chocolate chip cookie dough. 7 years, 3 months, and 14 days. That's how long it had been since Maxwell disappeared from their backyard. 7 years since the ransom call. 7 years since they'd paid $2 million and waited by the phone for the location where they'd find their son safe. The call never came. His wife, Catherine, hadn't survived the grief. The cancer took her 3 years ago, but Alexander knew the truth. She died the day Maxwell was taken. Her body just took longer to follow. "Mr. Sterling?" His assistant Margaret appeared in the doorway, her face carefully neutral. "There's a Detective Morrison here to see you. He says it's about Maxwell." Alexander's heart stopped, then started again with painful force. Over the years, he'd had dozens of these visits, each one a cruel hope, a false lead, another dead end. He'd learned to expect nothing, to protect himself from the devastation of disappointment, but he always listened, always hoped. Detective Morrison was in his 50s, with tired eyes that had seen too much. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Mr. Sterling, 2 nights ago there was a traffic accident on Highway 5. A van registered to a shell corporation we've been investigating for child trafficking. The driver and passenger were found unconscious, but there was evidence someone else had been in the vehicle. Blood traces, torn clothing. The back doors were open." Alexander felt the room tilt. "You think it was a child?" "We're certain of it. And Mr. Sterling." Morrison pulled out a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a small, dirty piece of fabric, a child's shirt. "We found this caught on the door latch. The blood type matches Maxwell's." The photograph slipped from Alexander's fingers, clattering onto the desk. "It's been 7 years," he whispered. "They said the first 48 hours were critical. After that, the chances—" "I know what they said." Morrison's voice was gentle but firm. "But Mr. Sterling, we've been tracking this trafficking ring for years. They don't kill the children. They move them, sell them, use them. If Maxwell was in that van, if he's out there somewhere—" He leaned forward. He could still be alive. Alexander couldn't breathe. 7 years of grief, of guilt, of desperate hope that he'd forced himself to abandon because it hurt too much. Now it all came rushing back, threatening to drown him. "What do I do?" His voice broke. "Where do I look?" "We're searching the area around the crash site." "But Mr. Sterling, if Maxwell escaped, he's terrified. He's been held captive for 7 years. He doesn't know if he can trust anyone, doesn't know if we're here to help or hurt him. He might be hiding." Alexander was already moving, grabbing his coat. "I'm coming with you." "Sir, I don't think—" "Detective, that's my son out there. Somewhere in this city, my boy is cold and scared and hurt, and I have spent every single day for 7 years praying for even a chance to find him." Alexander's voice was steel, wrapped in desperation. "I'm coming with you, and nothing you say will stop me." Morrison studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Let's go find your son." As they left the building, Alexander whispered a prayer he'd stopped believing in years ago. "Hold on, Maxwell, I'm coming. Daddy's coming." Lily knew they needed help, but trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Max's fever had worsened through the day, his skin burning hot to the touch. His legs were infected, she was certain now. The swelling had spread, and the smell made her gag. "I need to find a doctor," she told Max, but he grabbed her arm with surprising strength. "No hospitals," he gasped. "They'll find me. They have people everywhere, cops, doctors, social workers. That's how they kept me hidden for so long." Max, you're dying. Better dead than back there." His eyes were wild with fever and fear. "You don't understand what they do, Lily. What they make you do. What they sell you for." Lily's blood ran cold. She was 8 years old and living on the streets, but she wasn't naive. She'd seen enough, heard enough from other kids who'd escaped worse situations. "Okay," she said, making a decision. "No hospitals. But there's someone. Maybe she can help." Sister Grace ran a soup kitchen 5 blocks away. She never asked questions, never called the authorities, just helped whoever walked through her doors. Lily had gotten food there before, though she'd always been careful to stay invisible. This time, she'd have to risk being seen. "I'll be back in an hour," Lily promised. "Maybe 2. Lock the door after me and don't open it for anyone but me. I'll knock 3 times, pause, then twice more, okay?" Max nodded weakly. "Lily, if something happens to me, if they find me before you get back." He reached into his torn pocket and pulled out a small, tarnished medal. "Give this to my dad. Tell him I never stopped believing he'd come for me." Lily took the medal, her vision blurring with tears. On one side was an inscription, "To my little prince, love Dad." On the other, initials, MAS. "I'll be back," she repeated, "I promise." The journey to St. Catherine's took forever. Lily moved through shadows, avoiding main streets where patrol cars might spot a kid alone. When she finally reached the kitchen's back door, she was shaking with exhaustion and fear. Sister Grace answered on the second knock, her weathered face breaking into a gentle smile that faded when she saw Lily's expression. "Child, what's wrong?" "I need help," Lily whispered. "Medical help. But I can't. He can't go to a hospital. Please." Sister Grace studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Come inside. Tell me everything." Lily did, the words spilling out in a desperate rush. Sister Grace listened without interrupting, her face growing more troubled with each detail. "I know someone," she finally said. "Dr. Sarah Chen. She volunteers here sometimes. She won't ask questions you can't answer, but Lily, this boy needs serious medical attention. What you're describing sounds like advanced infection. Can you call her, please?" Sister Grace was already reaching for her phone when the front door crashed open. 3 men stormed in. Large, dangerous, with eyes that scanned the room like predators hunting prey. "Looking for a kid," the leader said, pulling out a photograph. "Boy, about 12, dark hair, might be with a blonde girl. Someone said they saw them near here." Lily's blood turned to ice. She ducked behind the counter, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might explode. Sister Grace's voice was calm, steady. "I serve hundreds of children here. You'll need to be more specific." "The boy's injured. Broken legs. He's our nephew. Ran away after a family dispute. We just want to bring him home safely." Lily could hear the lie dripping from his words like poison. Sister Grace clearly heard it too. "I haven't seen any injured children today. If I do, I'll call the proper authorities." The man's face hardened. "Lady, you don't want to get involved in family business, and you don't want to threaten a nun in her own establishment," Sister Grace replied coolly. "Now leave before I call those authorities myself." The standoff lasted an eternity. Finally the men left, but not before the leader turned back. "He can't hide forever. Tell him that. Tell him we always get our property back." When the door closed, Lily emerged from her hiding place, trembling. Sister Grace pulled her into a tight embrace. "That boy isn't going back to them," she said firmly. "Neither are you. We're calling Dr. Chen, and then we're calling someone else." "Who?" Lily whispered. "Detective Morrison. He's one of the good ones, child. If anyone can help, it's him." Lily thought of Max's fear, his absolute conviction that no one in authority could be trusted. But she also thought of his burning fever, his infected legs, his fading strength. Sometimes, she realized, you had to choose between fear and hope. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's call them both." Alexander Sterling had searched for 36 hours straight, his driver taking him through every neighborhood near the crash site. He'd plastered Maxwell's photo, digitally aged to show how he might look now, on every surface that would hold it. He'd gotten hundreds of calls, all false leads, all dead ends. Now, exhausted and running on nothing but black coffee and desperate hope, he sat in his car outside a soup kitchen on the edge of the city. Detective Morrison had mentioned this place as a possibility. Street kids often came here. His phone rang. Morrison's number. "We might have something," the detective said without preamble. "Sister Grace at St. Catherine's called, says she has information about an injured boy matching Maxwell's description. But Sterling, you need to prepare yourself, even if it's him." "I'm already here," Alexander interrupted, staring at the soup kitchen's modest entrance. "At St. Catherine's. I'll call you back." He practically ran inside, his heart in his throat. An older nun met him at the door, her expression a mixture of sympathy and concern. "Mr. Sterling?" At his nod, she continued, "I'm Sister Grace. Before I tell you more, I need your word that this child, if it's your son, will be protected. There are dangerous people looking for him." "He's in danger?" Alexander's voice rose. "Where is he?" "Please, keep your voice down. He's not here, he's hidden nearby. A brave little girl has been protecting him, but Mr. Sterling, he's very sick. Infected legs, high fever. Dr. Chen is with him now, but he needs proper hospital care." Alexander felt tears streaming down his face. "It's really him? It's Maxwell." Sister Grace pulled out a small, tarnished medal. "The girl said to give this to his father, said to tell you he never stopped believing you'd come." Alexander's legs gave out. He knew that medal. He'd given it to Maxwell on his 4th birthday. "To my little prince." He'd worn it every day until— "Where is he?" Alexander demanded, finding his strength again. "Take me to him, now." Sister Grace led him through back alleys, explaining in hurried whispers about Lily, about Max's escape, about the men who'd come looking. Alexander barely heard her, his entire being focused on one thing. His son was alive. They reached an abandoned building, climbed crumbling stairs, and Sister Grace knocked in a specific pattern. The door cracked open, and Alexander saw her, a tiny blonde girl with fierce blue eyes and dirt-smudged cheeks. "Who's he?" Lily demanded, blocking the entrance. "Lily," Sister Grace said gently, "this is Alexander Sterling, Maxwell's father." The girl studied him with an intensity that was unnerving in someone so young. Then she looked back into the room. "Max? Someone here to see you." Alexander heard a weak voice respond, and then he was pushing past Lily, past Sister Grace, past everything that stood between him and his son. The boy lying on a dirty blanket barely resembled the 5-year-old in his memories. He was skeletal, bruised, his legs bent at unnatural angles. But his eyes, those green eyes that Catherine had passed down, were the same. "Maxwell?" Alexander's voice broke completely. The boy stared at him, confusion and disbelief warring on his face. Then his eyes widened and his hand flew to his mouth. "Dad!" It was barely a whisper. "Dad, is it really you?" Alexander collapsed beside him, gathering his broken son into his arms as gently as he could, sobbing into his matted hair. "I've got you," he choked out. "I've got you, my little prince. I never stopped looking, never stopped hoping. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Maxwell was crying too, his thin arms wrapping around his father with desperate strength. You came for me. They said you wouldn't, but you came." Dr. Chen stepped forward quietly. "Mr. Sterling, your son needs immediate hospitalization. The infection is severe." "No!" Maxwell's panic was immediate. "No hospitals! They'll find me there!" Alexander held his son's face in his hands. "Maxwell, listen to me. I have the best security team in Seattle, the best lawyers, the best everything. No one will ever take you from me again. I promise you. I swear on your mother's memory. You are safe now." Maxwell searched his father's face, looking for any sign of deception. Then slowly he nodded. But as they prepared to move him, Lily caught Alexander's arm. Mr. Sterling, those men, the ones looking for him. They said something. They said we always get our property back. They're not going to stop. Alexander looked at this tiny, fierce girl who'd saved his son when the world had failed him. Let them try, he said quietly, his voice filled with cold fury. They took 7 years from us. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure they pay for every single day. The private wing of Seattle General Hospital had never seen security like this. Alexander had hired an entire team of ex-military bodyguards, each one personally vetted. Maxwell's room was on the top floor, with only one entrance and cameras covering every angle. And yet, Maxwell couldn't sleep. Lily sat beside his hospital bed, refusing to leave despite nurses' protests. Alexander had to intervene, insisting she stay. This small girl had done more for his son than the entire Seattle Police Department. "Tell me about them," Alexander said quietly. It was 3 in the morning, and Dr. Chen had finally gotten Maxwell's fever under control. His legs were in surgery tomorrow. They'd try to repair the damage, though the doctors warned the outlook was uncertain. Maxwell's hand tightened on his father's. "Dad, you don't want to know." "Yes, I do." Alexander's voice was gentle but firm. "Son, I need to understand what happened to you, who took you, where they kept you, everything." Maxwell was quiet for so long, Alexander thought he wouldn't answer. Lily squeezed his other hand encouragingly. Finally, Maxwell spoke. "There were 3 of them that day in the backyard. They'd been watching our house for weeks," they said later. "Knew Mom's schedule, knew when you'd be at work. They grabbed me while I was playing with my trucks by the fence." His voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone who'd relived the memory too many times. "Put something over my face that made everything go black." Alexander felt sick but forced himself to listen. "When I woke up, I was in a basement. Concrete walls, no windows. There were other kids there, maybe 6 or 7, all around my age. They told us we were orphans now, that our parents had abandoned us." Maxwell's voice cracked. "The ransom was just a test," they said, "to see if we were worth keeping. And when your parents pay, then decide they don't want you back anyway, you know you're worthless." "Maxwell, that's not—" "I know that now, Dad. But I was 5. For years I believed them." Lily wiped tears from her eyes, and Alexander saw his own anguish reflected in her young face. "They moved us every few months," Maxwell continued. "Different basements, different warehouses. They showed us to buyers, people who wanted kids for different reasons. Some wanted workers, cheap labor for farms or factories. Some wanted—" He couldn't finish the sentence, but Alexander understood, and his rage grew. "I was lucky, in a sick way. Mr. Graves, that's what we called the leader, said I was high-quality merchandise, educated, good-looking enough, young enough to be properly trained. He kept raising my price, waiting for the right buyer." Maxwell's face twisted with bitter irony. "My value went up when I tried to escape the first time, showed spirit," he said. "How many times did you try to escape?" Lily asked softly. 4 times in 7 years. Each time the punishment got worse. The last time was 2 years ago. That's when—" Maxwell looked at his father, shame flooding his features. "That's when I gave up, stopped fighting, just survived." "Oh, Maxwell." Alexander pulled his son close, careful of his injuries. "You did what you had to do. You survived. That's not giving up. That's being strong." "But Dad, that's not all." Maxwell's voice dropped to a whisper. 6 months ago, something changed. Mr. Graves started talking about a final sale. Said he'd found the perfect buyer, someone who specifically wanted damaged goods, someone who paid extra for kids who couldn't run. The room went cold. "They broke your legs on purpose." Alexander's voice was deadly quiet. Maxwell nodded. "Mr. Graves said it would triple my value, make me manageable. The buyer was supposed to pick me up in 3 days. That's why they were transporting me when the van crashed." Alexander stood, pacing the room like a caged lion. Morrison needs to know this. Every detail. We're going to find these people, Maxwell. Every single one of them. Dad, you don't understand. Mr. Graves isn't just some street criminal. He has connections. Cops, judges, social workers. That's how he stayed hidden for so long. How he moved kids across state lines without being caught. He told us once, bragging, that he had people in positions so high that even if we escaped and told our stories, we'd never be believed. Then we'll make them believe, Alexander said firmly. Maxwell, you're not alone anymore. And neither are those other children. We're going to bring down his entire operation. Lily spoke up, her voice small but determined. Mr. Sterling, those other kids Max talked about, the ones in the basements with him. What happened to them? Maxwell's face went pale. They were sold. All of them. Over the years, one by one, they disappeared. New kids would come, and then they'd disappear too. I'm the only one who lasted this long. Mr. Graves said it was because I was premium stock. His voice dripped with self-loathing. No, Lily said fiercely. You lasted because you're strong, because you're a survivor, and now you're going to help save the others. Alexander looked at this remarkable little girl, orphan, homeless, with every reason to be bitter and selfish, who'd risked everything to save a stranger. An idea was forming in his mind, but that was for later. Right now, his son needed him. Maxwell, tomorrow, after your surgery, Detective Morrison is coming with a full task force. You're going to tell them everything you just told me. Every detail you can remember about the locations, the people, the buyers. And then we're going to systematically destroy everyone who hurt you. What if they come for me first? Maxwell's fear was palpable. Mr. Graves never leaves loose ends. Alexander sat back down, taking both his son's hands in his. Then they'll have to go through me. And son, I promise you this. I failed to protect you once. I will die before I let that happen again. Outside the hospital room, in a car parked across the street, a man watched through binoculars. He picked up his phone and dialed. Yeah, it's me. Found the kid. He's at Seattle General Private Wing, top floor. Sterling's got security, but nothing we can't handle. A pause. I understand. Retrieval and elimination. The kid and anyone who knows too much. Another pause. What about the girl? The voice on the other end was cold and final. No witnesses, no evidence, clean sweep. The man smiled. Understood. Consider it done. The attack came at 4 in the morning, precisely when hospital staff changed shifts and security was most vulnerable. Alexander had fallen asleep in the chair beside Maxwell's bed, one hand still holding his son's. Lily was curled up on a small cot the nurses had brought in, her breathing soft and even. The first indication something was wrong came from the security guard posted outside. A muffled thump, then silence. Marcus Hayes, Alexander's head of security and former Navy SEAL, was in the hallway getting coffee when he saw the guard slump against the wall. 3 men in hospital scrubs moved swiftly toward Maxwell's room, and Marcus recognized the calculated movements of trained operatives. He didn't hesitate. Pressing the emergency button on his radio, he moved to intercept. Code red, top floor, multiple hostiles. Inside the room, Alexander jerked awake at the sound of scuffling. Through the door's window, he saw Marcus fighting 2 men, while a third reached for the door handle. Maxwell, Lily, under the bed, now! Alexander's voice was urgent but controlled. He'd spent the last 36 hours preparing for exactly this scenario. The door burst open, and a man with cold eyes stepped through, a syringe in his hand. Nothing personal, Sterling. Just business. Alexander stood between the intruder and the bed, where his son and Lily were hiding. You're not touching them, the man smiled. What are you going to do? You're a CEO, not a fighter. Step aside, or you'll die with them. Then I'll die with them. The man lunged forward, but Alexander was ready. Years of boxing at his private gym hadn't been just for fitness. He caught the man's wrist, twisting it hard enough to make him drop the syringe, then drove his knee into the attacker's stomach. The fight was brief, but vicious. Alexander took a knife slash across his forearm, but managed to slam the intruder's head against the wall hard enough to leave a dent. In the hallway, Marcus had subdued one attacker and was grappling with the second when hospital security and police finally arrived, alerted by the emergency call. It was over in 3 minutes. But as they zip-tied the attackers and called for backup, Detective Morrison arrived with news that made Alexander's blood run cold. "Sterling, these men aren't the only team. We intercepted communications. There are 2 more groups. One heading to your home, one to your office." Alexander's face went pale. "Margaret, my assistant. She's working late tonight on quarterly reports." Morrison was already on his phone, but the look on his face told Alexander everything before he spoke the words. "Sterling, I'm sorry. Your office was hit 20 minutes ago. There was an explosion. Fire department is there now, but there are casualties." Alexander felt the world tilt. Margaret had worked for him for 15 years. She'd known Maxwell as a baby. She'd cried with him when Maxwell was taken. How many? His voice was hollow. 3 confirmed dead. Margaret Johnson, 2 security guards. Alexander stumbled back against the wall, grief and rage warring inside him. These people, Mr. Graves and his organization, they weren't just criminals. They were terrorists, willing to kill anyone who got in their way. Maxwell emerged from under the bed, his face stricken. "Dad, this is my fault. They're killing people because of me." "No." Alexander pulled his son close, his voice fierce despite the tears on his face. "This is their fault, their choice, their evil. And Maxwell, I swear to you, to Margaret's memory, we're going to end this." Detective Morrison stepped forward, his expression grim. "Sterling, your son isn't safe anywhere they can find him. We need to move him to a secure location, somewhere off the grid." "Where?" Alexander demanded. "I have a safe house 2 hours north. Federal Witness Protection uses it sometimes. No one outside my immediate team knows about it. We move tonight, now, before they can regroup." Lily tugged on Alexander's sleeve. "Mr. Sterling, what about the other kids? The ones Max talked about, the ones who got sold. They're still out there." Alexander looked at this incredible little girl, then at his traumatized son, then at the zip-tied attackers being hauled away by police. "Detective, I want immunity deals for anyone who talks. I want task forces mobilized. I want every federal resource you can access." His voice was cold steel. "We're not just protecting Maxwell anymore. We're going to war, and we're going to save every single child we can find." Morrison nodded slowly. "I'll make the calls. But Sterling, you need to understand. An operation this size, this organized, it takes serious money and serious connections. We're not just fighting street thugs, we're fighting something much bigger." "Then we'll need to be bigger," Alexander replied. "I'll use every dollar, every connection, every resource I have. They wanted a war? They've got one." As they prepared to evacuate Maxwell to the safe house, one of the captured attackers laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You think you've won? Sterling, you have no idea how deep this goes. Mr. Graves is just one piece. The organization spans 6 states, 12 countries. You're one man fighting an empire." Alexander leaned down, his voice deadly quiet. "I'm not one man. I'm a father who lost 7 years with his son. I'm a father who just lost someone who was like family. And I promise you this, I will burn your entire empire to the ground, even if it takes everything I have." The attacker's smile faded. As they moved Maxwell to an armored transport, Lily holding his hand the entire way, Alexander made silent promises to everyone he'd lost and everyone he'd failed to protect. This wasn't just about Maxwell anymore. This was about justice. This was about making sure no other child suffered what his son had endured, and God help anyone who stood in his way. The safe house was a modest cabin nestled in the mountains, surrounded by dense forest and accessible only by a single narrow road that Marcus's team could easily monitor. It was quiet, peaceful, the opposite of everything Maxwell had known for 7 years. Dr. Chen had come with them, along with portable medical equipment. Maxwell's surgery had been postponed for safety reasons, but his legs needed constant monitoring and care. "The good news, Doctor," Chen explained as she changed Maxwell's bandages, "is that with proper treatment we can manage the infection. The bad news is that the damage is extensive. Even with surgery, you'll likely need extensive physical therapy, possibly permanent mobility aids." Maxwell took the news with the same flat acceptance he'd shown since the hospital. But Lily, sitting cross-legged on the floor beside him, wasn't having it. "So he'll use crutches or a wheelchair? So what? He's alive. He's free. That's what matters." Dr. Chen smiled gently. "You're absolutely right, Lily." Over the next week, a routine developed. Dr. Chen managed Maxwell's medical care. Marcus and his team ran security. Detective Morrison came and went, bringing updates and asking more questions, and Alexander tried to figure out how to be a father to a son he barely knew anymore. "Tell me about Mom," Maxwell asked one evening. They were sitting on the cabin's porch, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. Lily was inside, helping Dr. Chen inventory supplies. Alexander's chest tightened. "What do you want to know? Did she look for me before she died?" "Every single day." Alexander's voice was thick with emotion. "Maxwell, your mother never gave up. She organized search parties, hired private investigators, spent hours on the phone with every law enforcement agency in the country. The cancer diagnosis came 3 years after you were taken, but honestly, I think the grief weakened her first." "Did she blame me?" "What? No. Maxwell, how could you even—" "Because I was the one who went outside alone. You and Mom told me to stay where you could see me, but I wanted to play by the fence where my trucks could go down the hill." Maxwell's voice broke. "If I'd just listened, none of this would have happened." Alexander pulled his son into a fierce embrace. "Maxwell, you were 5 years old, a child playing in his own backyard. The only people responsible for what happened are the monsters who took you. Your mother never blamed you. She blamed herself for not being there. I blamed myself for being at work. But the truth is, the only guilty parties are Mr. Graves and everyone who helped him." They sat in silence for a while, Maxwell processing this. Finally, he spoke again. "Dad, what happens after? When this is over, and they catch everyone? What happens to me?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm not the same kid you lost. I don't like chocolate chip cookies anymore. The smell makes me sick because they used to give us cookies before they showed us to buyers, like we were dogs getting treats. I have nightmares every night. I can't sleep without a light on. I'm broken, Dad. What if you don't like who I am now?" Alexander felt tears streaming down his face. "Maxwell, listen to me. You are my son. Not the 5-year-old I lost, not some idealized memory. You, right now, exactly as you are, broken pieces and all. And I don't just like you, I love you, unconditionally, forever. Nothing you could say or do would change that. Even if I can't be normal. There's no such thing as normal. There's just us, figuring out how to be a family again, together." Inside the cabin, Detective Morrison was meeting with Alexander's legal team via encrypted video call. The investigation was expanding faster than anyone had anticipated. "We've identified 17 properties associated with Mr. Graves's operation," Morrison explained. "Warehouses, residential homes, even a rural compound in Idaho. We've coordinated with the FBI to execute simultaneous raids tomorrow at dawn." "How many children?" Alexander asked, his voice tight. We don't know yet. Could be dozens. Could be more. Morrison paused. Sterling, you should know. We've also identified several of the buyers from Maxwell's testimony, high-profile individuals, politicians, businessmen, even a judge. When this breaks, it's going to be a media firestorm. Good, Alexander said coldly. I want their faces plastered everywhere. I want them to lose everything, the way I lost my son for 7 years. Lily appeared in the doorway, her expression troubled. Mr. Sterling, can I talk to you? Alexander stepped outside with her, and she immediately looked down at her worn shoes. What happens to me? She asked quietly. When this is over, when Max doesn't need me anymore. Do I go back to the streets? Alexander's heart broke. In the chaos of everything, he'd almost forgotten that Lily was just as alone as Maxwell had been. Lily, look at me. When she did, he saw fear in her eyes, the fear of a child who'd learned to expect nothing good. You saved my son's life. You protected him when no one else could. You showed more courage and compassion than most adults I know. Do you really think I'd let you go back to the streets? But I'm nobody. Just some street kid. You're the girl who gave Maxwell hope when he'd lost everything. You're the girl who risked her own safety to help a stranger. And Lily, if you're willing, I'd like you to be part of our family. Lily's eyes went wide. You mean like adoption? Exactly like adoption. Maxwell's going to need a lot of help recovering, both physically and emotionally. And honestly, I think you two need each other. What do you say? Lily didn't answer with words. She just launched herself at Alexander, hugging him with all the strength her small body could muster, sobbing into his shirt. I'll take that as a yes, Alexander said softly, holding her close. Inside, Maxwell had been listening at the window. He smiled, really smiled, for the first time in 7 years. Maybe, he thought, maybe they really could be okay. But that night, as everyone slept, a message came through on Detective Morrison's encrypted phone. A message that would change everything they thought they knew. Graves is dead. Found in a warehouse in Portland, execution style, someone's cleaning house. The news of Mr. Graves's death sent shockwaves through the investigation. Someone was eliminating loose ends, and they were working fast. 3 more bodies in the last 48 hours. Detective Morrison reported grimly. 2 known associates of Graves and 1 buyer we'd identified from Maxwell's testimony. All executed, all professional hits. Alexander paced the cabin's small living room. They're destroying evidence. Everyone who could testify is being silenced. Which means Maxwell is in more danger than ever, Marcus added. If they're eliminating everyone connected to the organization, your son is the biggest loose end of all. Maxwell, sitting on the couch with Lily beside him, went pale. So they won't stop until I'm dead. They won't get that chance, Alexander said firmly, but fear gnawed at his gut. Morrison's phone buzzed. He read the message, and his expression darkened. The FBI raids happened this morning. 17 locations, simultaneous entry. He paused. They found 8 children, all under 12, all showing signs of severe abuse and malnutrition. The room fell silent. 8 children saved, but how many more were still out there? There's more, Morrison continued. We found records, ledgers, transaction logs, buyer lists. Sterling, this operation was generating over $20 million annually. We're talking about a network that spans the entire West Coast, with connections to international trafficking rings. Alexander felt sick. How many children total? Based on the records, over 300 in the last decade. 56 are still unaccounted for. Lily's hand found Maxwell's, squeezing tight. He squeezed back, both of them thinking the same thing. 56 children, still trapped in the nightmare he'd escaped. Dr. Chen spoke up from where she'd been monitoring Maxwell's vitals. Detective, These children you found, they'll need serious medical and psychological care, years of it. Does the state have resources for that? Not nearly enough, Morrison admitted. Most will end up in an overwhelmed foster system. Alexander's mind was already working. I'll fund it, all of it. Medical care, therapy, education, whatever they need. I'll establish a foundation, hire the best specialists. These kids deserve better than the system can provide. Mr. Sterling, that's going to cost millions. Then it costs millions. Alexander's voice was steel. My son was one of 300. I got him back through sheer luck. The least I can do is give the others a fighting chance. Over the next few days, a plan took shape. The Sterling Foundation for Exploited Children would provide comprehensive services, medical care, mental health support, educational resources, and long-term housing. Alexander threw himself into the work with manic energy, as if he could somehow atone for the years Maxwell suffered by saving others, but the executions continued. Every few days, another body turned up, another potential witness silenced. Whoever's behind this has serious resources, Marcus observed during a security briefing. Professional killers don't come cheap, and they're operating across multiple states with law enforcement actively looking for them. Which means, Morrison said slowly, they have inside information. Someone in law enforcement or government is feeding them intelligence. The implications were terrifying. If the organization had infiltrated the investigation, nowhere was truly safe. That night, Maxwell woke screaming from a nightmare. Alexander rushed to his side, holding him as he sobbed. They were there, Dad, in my dream. They came through the windows, through the doors. They took me back to the basement and you couldn't stop them. No one could stop them. It was just a dream, son. You're safe. But for how long? Maxwell's eyes were haunted. They killed Mr. Graves. They're killing everyone. What if they get past Marcus and his team? What if they hurt you, or Lily, or Dr. Chen? Everyone around me is in danger. Lily appeared in the doorway, having heard his cries. She climbed onto the bed and took Maxwell's hand. Then we're in danger together, she said simply. We're family now, remember? Families stick together even when it's scary. Maxwell looked at this fierce little girl who'd saved his life, and something inside him shifted. He'd spent 7 years in survival mode, focused only on getting through each day. But now he had people worth fighting for. Dad, he said quietly, I want to help catch them. Whoever's behind this, whoever's killing people to cover their tracks, I want to help bring them down. Maxwell, you're 12 years old. You've been through enough. Exactly, I've been through it. I know how they think, how they operate. The other kids who were rescued, they're going to be too scared to talk, but I'm not anymore. His voice grew stronger. They took 7 years from me. They killed Mom. They hurt hundreds of kids. I want to help stop them. Alexander wanted to say no, to protect his son from further trauma. But he saw the determination in Maxwell's eyes and recognized it. The need to take back power from the people who'd stolen everything. Okay, he said finally, but we do this carefully and you're never unprotected. Deal? Deal. What none of them knew was that their safe house wasn't as safe as they thought. A mile away, in a car parked at the tree line, a woman watched through high-powered binoculars. She'd been watching for 3 days, learning their routines, identifying weaknesses, and tonight she'd make her move. Not to kill them. That would come later. Tonight, she just needed to plant the seeds of doubt, to make them question everything they thought they knew. Because the real mastermind behind the organization wasn't some street criminal like Mr. Graves. It was someone much closer to home, someone Maxwell and Alexander trusted completely. The revelation came from an unexpected source, one of the 8 rescued children, a 10-year-old girl named Emma, who finally felt safe enough to speak. There was a lady, Emma told the FBI interviewer, her voice small but clear. She came sometimes to check on us. Nice clothes, fancy perfume. She'd talk to Mr. Graves, give him papers. The other kids called her the angel because she always smiled, but Emma shuddered. Her eyes were cold. She scared me more than Mr. Graves did. Indeed. The interviewer showed Emma photos of various women associated with the case. Emma went through them one by one, shaking her head until she reached the 5th photo. She went completely still. That's her. That's the angel. The interviewer's blood ran cold. Are you absolutely certain? Yes. I'd never forget her face. Within an hour, Detective Morrison was racing toward the safe house, his mind reeling. This couldn't be right. It had to be a mistake, but Emma's certainty, combined with evidence they'd been uncovering, painted an undeniable picture. He burst into the cabin to find the team in a casual evening setting, Alexander reviewing foundation documents, Maxwell and Lily playing cards, Dr. Chen preparing dinner. Sterling, I need everyone in this room right now, including... Morrison's voice hardened. Including Dr. Sarah Chen. Dr. Chen looked up from the stove, surprised. Detective, what's wrong? I think you know exactly what's wrong, Doctor, or should I call you by your real name, Sarah Chen Graves? The room froze. Alexander stood slowly, his expression confused. Morrison, what are you talking about? Dr. Chen isn't just a volunteer at St. Catherine's. She's Mr. Graves's sister-in-law. She married his brother 15 years ago, kept her maiden name professionally, and according to Emma, one of the rescued children, she's been involved with the trafficking operation from the beginning. Dr. Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes did. The warmth drained away, replaced by cold calculation. Emma always was too observant for her own good, she said quietly. Maxwell made a strangled sound. This woman had been treating him, caring for him, gaining his trust, and all along she'd been part of the organization that destroyed his childhood. Why? Alexander's voice was thick with betrayal. You helped us. You saved Maxwell's life. Doctor. Chen, Sarah, smiled without humor. I saved Maxwell's life because a dead child is worthless, a rescued child who trusts me, who depends on me. That's valuable intelligence. She moved toward the medical supplies, her hand reaching for something. Marcus was faster. His gun was out and aimed before she could grab whatever she'd been reaching for. Don't move. Hands where I can see them. Sarah complied, unbothered. You can't prove anything. A traumatized child's testimony, my word against hers. Morrison stepped forward, pulling out a tablet. Actually, we can prove everything. When the FBI raided those properties, they found financial records. Payments from the organization to an offshore account in your name. Over $2 million in the last 5 years. Care to explain that? Sarah's composure cracked slightly. Those could be fabricated. They're not. We also found your medical records from the organization. You weren't just providing intelligence, you were certifying children as healthy for buyers, making sure the merchandise was in good condition. How many children did you examine, Doctor? How many did you clear for sale, knowing exactly what would happen to them? The room was silent except for Maxwell's ragged breathing. Lily had her arms around him, both of them staring at Sarah with horror. It was just business, Sarah said flatly. Supply and demand. These were children no one wanted. Orphans, runaways, foster kids the system failed. We gave them value, purpose. Is that really so terrible? Alexander lunged at her, but Marcus held him back. You're talking about human beings, Alexander roared. Children, my son spent 7 years being tortured because of people like you. Margaret died because of you. Sarah's eyes flickered with something, not quite remorse, but close. Margaret was collateral damage. The attack on your office was never supposed to be lethal, just a warning. But the team got overzealous. Why? Maxwell's voice was barely a whisper. Why did you help me if you were one of them? Why not just let me die, or turn me back over? Sarah looked at him, and for a moment something almost human crossed her face. "Because you reminded me of someone," she said quietly. "My daughter. She was taken by a trafficking ring when she was 7. Different organization, different circumstances. I searched for 3 years, found her body in a river." Her voice was clinical, but her hands trembled slightly. "After that, I didn't care anymore. About anything. My husband, Graves's brother, recruited me. Said I could help prevent other children from suffering like she did, but really, I think I just wanted to hurt the world the way it hurt me." "So you became the very thing that destroyed your daughter," Morrison said with disgust. "You became a monster." "Perhaps," Sarah didn't deny it, "but I'm not the monster you should be worried about. I'm just middle management, detective, the real power behind this operation, the one orchestrating everything, including the recent executions. They're still out there, and they're much closer than you think." "Who?" Alexander demanded. "Who's running this?" Sarah smiled, a genuine smile this time, full of malice. "That's the beautiful part, Mr. Sterling. You'll figure it out soon enough. And when you do, you'll realize you were being played from the very beginning. Every step you've taken, every move you've made, it's all been part of their plan." Morrison moved to handcuff her, but Sarah's smile only widened. "One more thing, detective, that message about Graves being executed? Check the timestamp. It was sent before he was actually killed. Someone wanted you to know about it immediately. Someone wanted to see how you'd react. Someone who has access to your encrypted communications." The implications hit like a physical blow. If someone had access to Morrison's encrypted phone, they knew everything, every safe house location, every investigation detail, every planned move. "The mole," Marcus said grimly. "It's someone in Morrison's team." But Sarah shook her head. "Not quite. Think bigger, gentlemen. Who benefits most from this investigation? Who's been gathering intelligence about the organization's structure, its buyers, its operations? Who now knows exactly which wealthy, powerful people to blackmail?" Alexander's blood ran cold as understanding dawned. "Someone's not trying to shut down the organization," he said slowly. "They're trying to take it over." Sarah's smile was triumphant. "Now you're getting it. The executions aren't clean-up, they're a hostile takeover, and Mr. Sterling, I'm afraid you and your son are right in the middle of it." Before anyone could respond, every light in the cabin went out simultaneously. Emergency generators should have kicked in immediately. They didn't. In the darkness, Sarah's voice came one last time, eerily calm. "They're here. I hope you're ready." Marcus moved with military precision in the darkness, his night vision goggles showing him what the others couldn't see. 6 figures approaching the cabin from multiple directions, moving with professional coordination. "Morrison, get Sterling and the kids to the safe room, now." Alexander grabbed Maxwell and Lily, pushing them toward the back bedroom where Marcus had installed a reinforced panic room disguised as a closet. Morrison zip-tied Sarah Chen's hands and dragged her along. "Wait!" Maxwell protested. "Dad, what about you and Marcus?" "We'll hold them off. Go!" The panic room was small, barely 8 by 8 feet, but it was lined with steel plating and had its own communication system. Alexander sealed them inside, his heart hammering. Through the security cameras still running on battery backup, they watched Marcus take position, his team of 4 guards spreading through the cabin. The attackers were good, but Marcus was better. The first 2 tried to breach the front door and went down hard to rubber bullets. Marcus's orders were to capture, not kill. But the next wave was smarter. They used tear gas, forcing Marcus and his team to fall back, eyes streaming, the cabin filled with smoke and chaos. In the panic room, Lily clung to Maxwell while Sarah sat calmly in the corner, her expression unreadable. "They won't kill you," she said conversationally, "at least not immediately. You're too valuable. Maxwell knows too much about the old organization, and Alexander Sterling. Your resources, your connections, your foundation that's supposedly for helping children." She laughed coldly. "Perfect cover for a new trafficking operation. Whoever's taking over needs legitimacy. You're it." "Shut up!" Morrison snapped, but his face was pale. Everything Sarah said made terrible sense. Maxwell's mind was racing. 7 years of captivity had taught him to read situations, to find escape routes, to survive. He studied the panic room's layout, the ventilation system, the emergency protocols Marcus had explained during their first day here. "Dad," he whispered, "the ventilation shaft. It connects to the outside, right? Emergency exit?" "Maxwell, you can't. Someone has to get help. Real help. Not Morrison's team. They're compromised." "Not local police. Sarah said the organization has connections everywhere." Maxwell's voice was steady despite his fear. "But there's a ranger station 2 miles north. Federal rangers, not local cops. They can call in real backup." Alexander looked at his son, this brave, broken, beautiful boy who'd survived hell and was still fighting. "You can't walk. Your legs. I can crawl if I have to. I've done it before." Maxwell's jaw was set. "Dad, I'm not helpless. I'm not that scared 5-year-old anymore. Let me help." Lily stood up. "I'm going with him. I know these woods. I've been in forests like this before, hiding from people. And I'm fast." "Absolutely not. Both of you are children." "Children who've survived more than most adults," Lily interrupted. "Mr. Sterling, we can do this. We have to do this." Morrison checked his watch. "The attackers will breach this room in maybe 10 minutes. If the kids can get to the ranger station, call in federal backup, we might actually survive this." Alexander wanted to refuse, to protect them, to keep them safe. But he looked at Maxwell's determined face and knew his son was right. They couldn't wait to be saved. They had to save themselves. "Okay, but Lily, you stay with Maxwell every second. If anyone spots you, you run and don't look back. Promise me." "I promise." Marcus's voice crackled over the comm system. "Sterling, they're bringing in cutting equipment. You've got 8 minutes, tops." Alexander opened the ventilation shaft, his heart breaking as he helped Maxwell into the narrow space. His son's legs were still damaged, still weak, but determination burned in his eyes. "I'll be back, Dad. I promise. I'll bring help." "I know you will, son. I believe in you." Lily squeezed in behind Maxwell, and they started crawling through the darkness, following the shaft toward the outside vent. In the panic room, Alexander turned to Morrison. "If they breach before the kids get help, we need to buy them time." "Agreed. Sarah comes with us as a hostage." "They won't risk killing her if she's valuable to the operation." Sarah laughed. "You think I'm valuable? I'm as expendable as anyone. I told you, this is a takeover. Old regime gets eliminated, new regime takes control. I'm old regime." "Then why help us with information?" Morrison demanded. "Because I'm tired," Sarah said simply. "Tired of the lies, the pain, the endless cycle. My daughter is dead. My husband abandoned me. I've done terrible things and I can't undo them. Maybe if Maxwell survives, if those 8 children I helped rescue get real help, maybe that's something. Maybe that's enough." Outside the cabin, the attackers had reached the panic room door. The high-pitched whine of a cutting torch filled the air. Alexander checked his watch. 6 minutes since Maxwell and Lily entered the ventilation system. They'd need at least 20 to reach the ranger station. "Morrison, we need to stall them." The detective nodded, checking his weapon. "Sterling, when this is over, if we survive, I want you to know you're a better father than most. Maxwell's lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one. I got my son back. Not everyone does." The first section of the panic room door fell away with a metallic clang. Light poured in from the cabin. A voice called through the opening, eerily calm. "Mr. Sterling, Dr. Chen, Detective Morrison, please come out peacefully. We'd prefer not to use force, but we will if necessary. Alexander stepped toward the opening, putting himself between the breach and Morrison. Let's talk about what you want. I'm a businessman. Everything's negotiable. Negotiation implies you have something we need, mister. Sterling, right now you're trapped, outgunned, and out of options. Your security team is subdued. Your son and the girl... The voice paused. Actually, where are the children? They're not showing on our thermal scans. A different voice, sharper. Check the ventilation system. They're escaping. Alexander smiled grimly. The kids had a head start. It would have to be enough. You want to talk? He called out. Then tell me who you are. Who's really running this operation? Silence. Then, you'll find out soon enough, Mr. Sterling. In fact, you already know them. You've known them for years. The words sent ice through Alexander's veins. Someone he knew. Someone he trusted. The remaining sections of the panic room door were cut away. 6 armed figures in tactical gear stood in the opening, their faces covered by masks. The leader stepped forward, pulling off their mask. Alexander's world tilted. "Hello, Alexander," said the familiar face. "I suppose we have a lot to discuss." Alexander stared at the face before him, Richard Blackwood, his business partner for 15 years, Maxwell's godfather, his closest friend. "Richard!" Alexander's voice cracked. "This can't be real." Richard smiled, that familiar warm smile, now twisted with darkness. "I'm sorry, old friend, but business is business. You knew!" Alexander lunged forward, but guards held him. "When Maxwell was taken, when Catherine died, you knew where he was." "Not at first. But 6 months after his kidnapping, I discovered Graves's operation and saw opportunity. Your grief made you vulnerable. You signed over Sterling tech control without reading the fine print." Richard's voice was cold. "A technology company with international shipping, perfect for trafficking." "The company was about the company," Alexander whispered in horror. "At first. Then I realized its true potential. And that foundation you're building, with your reputation managing vulnerable children?" Richard laughed. "Nobody would suspect. I'd rather die than help you." "Then what happens to Maxwell? We have people at the ranger station. He'll be captured within the hour." A gunshot cracked outside. "Federal agents, drop your weapons." Marcus Hayes entered with FBI agents. The ventilation led to a storm shelter, with FBI waiting. "Maxwell and Lily are safe at headquarters giving statements. It's over, Blackwood." Richard pressed a gun to Alexander's head. "I walk or Sterling dies." "Do it," Alexander said calmly. "Maxwell survived. He's free. You've already lost." Detective Morrison disarmed Richard swiftly. As agents hauled him away, Alexander stumbled outside into dawn's light. Maxwell and Lily sat wrapped in blankets on a vehicle hood. Maxwell tried to stand but fell. Alexander caught him, holding tight. "We did it, Dad," Maxwell sobbed. "You saved us, son." Months later, 43 children were recovered. The network was dismantled. Maxwell had 3 surgeries and walked with a limp, but he lived. Lily's adoption finalized. The Sterling Foundation helped over 200 children. On the rescue anniversary, Alexander watched Maxwell sleep peacefully. "Love you, my little prince," he whispered. Maxwell's eyes opened with a genuine smile. "Love you too, Dad. Thanks for never giving up." "Never," Alexander promised. They were survivors, fighters, family. Finally, truly home. The end.